Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Mind-Boggling Concepts in the Torah. As per usual, please put down any sharp objects and don't get too close to the camera. You don't want to spread any of those dangerous diseases. So, this week's Parsha is a whopper, Parsha Shelach, which we have to really wait. This is a teaser. We have to wait till Bilam to really understand what's going on here. But Bilam's going to uncover the truth. But in the meantime, it seems like back to the Bat Cave. Seems like there's a lot of trouble brewing in Dodge City. So they send out these spies, right? I'm not revealing any secrets that you're not familiar with. Okay, the Jewish people send out the spies, and Moshe Rabbeinu immediately regrets it, as evidenced by the fact that he prays for Yeshua. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Rabbi.
Okay. So you guys usually by this time have got 15 questions or comments or something. Having a slow day. So he immediately regrets it. Why does he regret it? Like these people, the people they sent were the Gedolim, right? This is like, whoever Chafetz Chaim couldn't eat their lunch, right? Make the Vilna Gaon look like a yeshiva bach, look like a high school, like a kindergartner. Like these are the greats of the greats.
Mm-hmm.
So what on earth did he see that he said, "Oh my goodness, like this is a big mistake"?
You mean he saw it before they came back?
That's right.
He actually sent.
He saw it as soon as he sent them.
Why didn't he see it before?
Why didn't he see before what?
So you're saying he regretted it as soon as he sent them?
As soon as he sent. Well, before
why didn't he regret before he sent them?
Well, in the process, in other words, from the moment they said let's send in spies, seemed like a good idea, till we get to them actually sending in the spies. As soon as he sent in the spies, he realized this isn't gonna go well.
What gave him that? What gave him the clue that something's not right?
That's exactly that. Now you got the question. Very good. I like that.
So it takes us like 10 minutes to figure out what your question is. Gosh, we're slow. Wait a minute. He knew something was off, right? Because he even gave Yeshua a new name, right? He gave him, yeah, right? So wasn't it, what was his name?
Hosea
ben Nun, right? So being Yehoshua.
Right. So he knew it was off. Now, what was the clue? The Torah is telling you the clue.
Where does it say it?
What's that? I'll give you an example. Like we just bought this house, right?
Yeah.
So when we bought it, it was horrendous. I mean, the woman who lived here before, she had died 2 years before. It was in foreclosure. It was a wreck, total wreck. It would be ransacked. It had been touched in decades, and it was awful. Right, so I come into the house, and I should have realized I had some problems. I mean, we knew we had some problems. What was the problems? In the basement, there was one of those industrial sucking machines, like not pumps. What?
Sump pump.
Right, like heavy duty, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking. Right, we remodeled the house, the whole thing takes 6 months. Finally, we move in, and the sewers are all broken.
I'm surprised that your contractor didn't say anything before. I'm surprised your contractor didn't notice the sump pump and say, maybe you should replace it because you never know when it's going to fail.
Right. No one picked up on it. I should have realized that. Why? She was a poor old lady. She, why would she spend the money on this kind of equipment? It just didn't put two and two together, right? And the sewers are completely shot, right? So we had a big mess. It was a big problem, but it's my fault because I should have seen it, right? I should have
Wait a minute. I have a question about this because sometimes we see things but we don't understand.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't click.
Click.
Like, isn't that God? Because something it should click.
It should click. So we're not paying attention. The Almighty is giving us little hints along the way, and we're not paying attention. I hold that, I don't want to get into an argument about it, but I hold there's no such thing as a surprise when it comes to bad news.
It's true because God gives you tiny little hints and you don't know what it means because you've never been in the situation and you don't understand it and
Right.
Until you're like, the problems, is in your face and you're like, oh, is that what this means? I didn't know this is what it means.
Right. Now, if you've ever dealt with anybody who's an extreme self-abuser, like I used to do a lot of work with AA, and there's some really serious cases there, but there's no such thing as, even though in their perspective, like they wake up one day and they don't know why their wives left them and the kids don't talk to them anymore and all this kind of stuff, right? They're really in shock because a human being is quite capable of ignoring all the messages. This is what one of the things we're really good at, right? We miss the messages along the way, right? Once you obey them, was not.
Sorry.
What's that?
From the alcoholic's perspective, he would just say, nobody spoke my language.
That's right. No, for sure. That's exactly what happens. Right. But from everyone else that was in the family, right, it was not unusual for an alcoholic to say, why didn't anyone tell me? Right. But you go back over your own mind and you don't have to go to that extreme. But very few people diverge from the norm that they've grown up with without people telling them, you shouldn't do that. The Talmud has a great example of this. It's by Eliezer ben Dodaya. It says there wasn't a prostitute in the world that he did not know on a first name basis, right? So it says that he met this woman. He found about this prostitute that was very exclusive. He went and she was the one who told him, you're the low of the low. And this was the thing that triggered him. So I believe I heard it from Rabbi Dessler, but I can't find it again. But he says that it can't be that someone who does this is his occupation, that they didn't have family and friends and rabbis and people in the community who told them you shouldn't live like that. Anybody who's living on a more decrepit level than the most decrepit people, is even they gonna say to you, you shouldn't live, this is not appropriate. Mm-hmm. Right? That's how it works. So it must have been people were telling him, like, get your act together. Right? But nothing got through.
Right.
So there's no such thing as you're blindsided by bad news. There's no such thing. You just weren't paying attention.
What messages was Hashem sending you about the sewage?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly the point, right? I came into the house and I saw this heavy duty equipment in the basement, and it seemed odd, but I didn't put two and two together.
But you didn't know what questions to ask. You've never seen this kind of equipment.
No, I knew what it was.
Oh, you did know what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I knew what it was, but I didn't.
It didn't click.
It just didn't click. Like in hindsight, it's easy, right? But the point is, like, we all get the little messages along the way. So the Torah is training you to think like that because you need to see the messages along the way, right? who has the greatest pain in existence?
You mean there's one
Hashem.
Hashem. Hashem. Right? Right? Imagine, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid. Shouldn't even talk about it. Nobody here, no one you know, nobody, right? Your child does something that's highly objectionable. Right? For such a parent of such a child is living in an excruciating pain.
More so than the child, probably.
Absolutely. Right? Now, who sees all the pain of all the children?
Hashem.
That's right. He's having a tough time. So he wants you to get your act together. Right? But just like you tell your kids, brush your teeth and wear clean underwear and all the other kind of stuff, right? And it's in one ear and out the other, right? The Almighty, he also cannot get the message across. He's also struggling. He's stuck.
Somehow that doesn't fit. The Almighty struggling, stuck. It doesn't fit.
He's totally stuck. He's totally stuck. That's why he needs us.
But everything's going according to how he wants it to go anyway. Like it's going to. Regardless of what we do, he is maneuvering us.
That's true. But you could have realized October the 7th, 2021, that Hamas is evil and we shouldn't have anything to do with them, and close off the Gaza Strip, and that would be it. You could have realized it. Everybody could have realized that, right? Everybody. Nobody says after October 7th that was a shocker. I'm completely blind. I couldn't see it coming. Everybody says the signs were clearly on the wall. Right?
Because they didn't have the will. They didn't have the will to deal with it. They didn't have the will to do anything about it.
They're blind. They're blind as well. They didn't want to hear it.
Right, because you don't want to engage your will.
What's that?
You don't want to engage your will. More often than not, I find that's the case. Like you don't want to do it, so you turn a blind eye.
Fine, but you said the people who are living on the border of the Gaza Strip, they paid a very heavy price for that ignorance. Right? So the Almighty wants you to figure it out before he has to do October the 7th.
This goes back to that question I always ask. Like, why does change have to come in a negative way? I don't understand. It doesn't.
I could have gone downstairs and seen the heavy, the big suction machines and go the pumps and go, I bet they have plumbing problems here. You could have done that. It would save me a whole bunch of pain. Pain is just there when you don't learn the lesson.
So then you had to replace like the plumbing inside the house or the plumbing outside of the house?
The plumbing outside the house. Plumbing inside the house, we already did.
But you would have had to replace it anyway, whether you replaced it earlier or later. You're saying that it was worse when you replaced it after everything was done?
Oh, yeah. It was very expensive.
Because, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
But anyway, I'm not crying, It's a good lesson. Right? So we're back to our question. So what could Moshe have seen? He saw he wasn't like us. That's why last week's Parsha says Moshe was the humblest man that ever lived. He didn't get caught up in his own humility is seeing the emes.
Seeing the truth.
Seeing the truth.
I don't see anything here that gives you a hint.
Oh.
Like the only thing you see here is that Hashem says Shlach lecha, send for yourself. That's the only hint I can get here, because everything else is like, well, where do you see a hint here?
If you don't get the hint, then you need the Haftorah. The Haftorah gives it away. What's the Haftorah?
See what the Haftorah is. Appears on page 1184. Oh, you don't have that in your book?
No,
All right, I'll share. I'll be nice. Okay, it's Yehoshua.
Right.
He dispatched from Shittim 2 men spies, secretly saying, "Go observe the land and Yericho." So they traveled and came to the house of blah 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 blah. Yeah, I don't understand. He only sent 2. Yehoshua only sent 2.
Right. Why the only send 2?
Why do you need all 12?
Exactly.
No, but Hashem specifically says it. It says, each one man each from his father's tribe shall you send, everyone a leader among them.
Right. That's
Hashem actually tells them that he should send 12.
Right, but that's because they Devarim lets us in a little bit more of the details. They wanted to send in 12.
So you think they should have just sent Yehoshua and Caleb?
That's right. I should have sent just Yeshua and Caleb. Right? In other words, you're going to send in spies. Right? So you call up Chaim Kamenetsky itself. You call up Rav Eliashiv. You call up the Chafetz Chaim. You call up the Chazon Ish. Right? We need you to go into Eretz Yisrael and spy out the land. How do you think? We need you to go into Iran, right? Like the Israelis know where everything is in Iran. They've been spying this place for 20 years. They know where everything is, right? The Iranians don't know what's going to hit them. Right? The Israelis are saying that they've been spending 20 years prepared for this. It's going to make the beeper thing look like child's play. I don't know what they're going to do, right? I have no insight. But the point is, like, what kind of people do they send in? Like the Rosh Hashiva, the Mir?
No, they send people who are crafty at deception.
Right. So you see, they sent in the Gedolim. What are you, crazy? The Almighty had to make a miracle, so they wouldn't get killed.
Now I'm getting what you're saying. If you're gonna send in spies, they have to be spies. They have to be good at their craft.
That's right.
The Gedolim are not well, Gedolim can be crafty if they need to be, but they're not naturally.
they're not gonna be James Bond here.
So then why does Hashem say send a leader from your?
Because in the way a person wants to go, you want to send in spies. We're going to get into that. Hopefully, we have time. But nevertheless, that's what they wanted. Why did they want to send in 12 spies? Why? Understand?
Right, because hey, it's a piece of my land too. I want to check it out also.
They don't trust each other.
They don't trust each other. That's the reason. Mishugas. Why didn't he just send Yehoshua and be done with?
That's right, because they don't. Because the spies weren't going to find any information. They were going to tell a story. They were going to tell. They needed a justification to do what they needed to do.
Okay, maybe I don't understand this story. Can we back up a little bit? Who brought up the whole idea of even spying the land? Was that God? Because that's what we see in the whatever. So it wasn't God. It was really the people who suggested it first. Yeah. And Moshe brought it to Hashem, and Hashem said, well, if that's what you want, go ahead.
Right, exactly.
Just make sure that they're leaders.
Right.
Why?
No, they wanted the leaders. They wanted
the leaders.
They wanted people who were going to toe the party line.
So I'm guessing that Moshe, based on everything that you're saying, I'm guessing that Moshe already knew it was a bad idea even before he asks God.
Okay, we don't need to go there, but at least by the time they start the first step, he knew they were in trouble. This is not about finding the truth. This is about telling a message.
So why even go along with it? If Moshe's not happy with this whole idea, why even?
So you see, we've talked about this many times, but there are two things in life you cannot mess up. What's that?
You can't mess up your life.
And
your children.
Your children, you can't mess up. So your child wants to do something, right? There's certain things you just have to let them do because they won't learn any other way.
Yes.
So this is part of the process.
It's so annoying, though.
It's true. But you see that with October 7th, right? There were kibbutzniks after October 7th who came out and said, there was one particular that caught my attention. She said that I met with a rabbi after October 7th, and the rabbi asked me how many shawls were destroyed in the massacre, and she said none. So he said, well, that's amazing. How do you explain it? He says, because there weren't any here. She said, I want to tell you a story. About 6 months ago, maybe longer, there was a rabbi who tried to create a basketball game between our kids and the kibbutz and the yeshiva boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew what he was trying to do, like acclimate us to Torah and bring us into his way. Right?
How dare he?
Exactly. And I protested it and stood at the gates. No, I wrote him a letter or an email and said to him, if you come, we will stand at the gates and block your entry.
Ay.
So she says, right, people used to come to the kibbutz and tell us we're naive. These people were not, and I didn't believe them. Right now I realize that they were right. So it's a terrible price to pay, but we all go through things like that. It's the price we have to pay. So you can't get there any other way. Like, I mean, you can get there other way, but it requires tremendous another, and they just weren't there.
Oh, that's the price. It's humility, and Moshe already had it.
Right.
So I don't understand this. If you said to us that the leader reflects the generation. So if Moshe is the most humblest man, isn't he reflecting his generation?
That's true. There was a tremendous. These people on a tremendously high level. In the same way that they complain about the situation, Moshe complains about the situation. He also gets frustrated by it.
But the truth is, they're not ready at this point. If they are looking to spy the land and create a narrative, they're not ready to go in.
That's right. That's why the Almighty needs. It says a very interesting thing. It says the Almighty says, "I can forgive you for everything, but I can't forgive you for this crime." Why not? Exactly. Why not? Because you can't forgive somebody for something they didn't do.
What didn't they do?
They didn't go into Eretz Israel.
Oh.
So there's nothing to do. There's nothing to forgive. You can't forgive someone for. So the only way that we can do tshuva for it is to have the spies. The spies is an ability to do tshuva. It gives us a handle on the crime. So it makes us more able to do tshuva because we have something we did.
You mean if they had not sent in spies and said, no, we're not ready to go, then
yeah, there would be
that would be worse.
That would be worse, exactly.
Wow.
Told you, mind-boggling. So there's a great Rashi here. And I have to thank Rav Matis Weinberg. Everybody should watch his material or listen to his material. It's called the Living Tree. I believe it's the livingtree.com. Or you can just type in Mattis Weinberg Living Tree, you'll find it. If you can't find it, text me or email me, and I'll be happy to send you the link. So he says a very interesting thing. They should have learned from Miriam. It's the first Rashi. Rashi says, why is Miriam next to the spies? This is a question that bothered me for many years. Why is Miriam next to the spies? Because these evil people should have learned from Miriam.
What do you mean these evil people? They were the heads of their tribes.
Yeah. It doesn't preclude them from doing the terrible thing.
Okay.
Right? So they should have learned from Miriam.
I guess her husband did learn from her.
Her husband? What do you mean?
Isn't Kalev her husband?
Right. Kalev was not part of the spies, right? So they should have learned from Miriam that she was punished because she spoke bad about Moshe. So the Jewish people, the spies, should have learned not to speak badly about the land of Israel.
Why did they speak badly? Was it because they thought that their leadership was going to go away, as I've heard, or was there some other reason?
Right, so the Midrash says that the spies specifically were the leaders who realized that they were not going to have a role in the land of Israel.
How does that even make sense? How did they figure that they would not have a role once they went into Israel? Of course you're going to have a role. You need somebody, you need leadership at a local level. What were they thinking? That makes no sense.
Well, you have leadership on a local level in today's world, but in the ancient world where people are spread out over the whole country, you don't have it's not the same thing. People are more independent. But anyway, let's stick with Rashi at the moment and then try and understand. So here you have Miriam. So Miriam spoke badly about Moshe. Miriam spoke badly about Moshe, and she was punished terribly.
Mm-hmm.
And the spies should have learned from that. Don't speak badly about the land of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which is a very strange thing. Right? Moshe is the Gadol Ador. He's the Gadol of Gadol Gadols. Right? He's it. Right? So she said that's something bad about Moshe. Well, really, I can understand it. Here, they're speaking about dirt and an inanimate object.
Yeah, but it was the very thing that God promised Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So he's just dirt.
If someone's punished because they speak badly about the king, right? If you're in Russia and you speak badly about Putin, you could be in big trouble. So do you learn from that? Don't speak badly about the Black Sea, about herring, about something else? No. I would understand it if it was the other way round. Miriam should have learned from the spies. But how did the spies learn from Miriam?
But didn't you say to us the other time that she was like one of the leaders of the generation?
Yes, she was, right, 100%.
The point is that if such a leader can mess up in this way, we need to look at ourselves and make sure that as leaders ourselves that we don't mess up also. In other words, it's not necessarily what she did, but the fact that she did make a mistake and that they need to do a cheshbon hanefesh to look into their motives. But her motive was pure, though. Their motive is not.
Exactly.
Right. So don't they usually say, you tend to punish the best kid in the class so that everybody else can look and say, oh, wow, if the best kid in the class got punished, then, we better really be careful.
That's true. Right. That's true. That's a good point. but it's hard for them to learn a lesson from Miriam. So the answer is it's not Lashon Hara in the usual sense of the word.
What's not Lashon Hara? Talking about the lands or what Miriam said?
You don't punish somebody speaking Lashon Hara that they have to spend the next 40 years in the desert. You say Lashon Hara, God forbid, you say Lashon Hara about somebody, right? You go and say sorry, you apologize, you do tshuva, and you're good. It doesn't take 40 years. Why do you need 40 years?
It does take 40 years for certain ideas to flesh out.
That's true. So that's what we're talking about here. It takes what ideas take 40 years?
These self-defeating ideas that they have that they can't do it.
I wouldn't say that because they do it. When Moshe tells them that they can't go into the land, they're going to die in the desert for 40 years. Imagine, God forbid, like someone goes to die. I mean, you should, please God, live to 120 plus. Right? That would be good. You go to the doctor and he says, listen, I've got some bad news. Right? With somebody we're not going to talk about, right? You're going to live another 40 years. You only got 40 years to go. That's pretty good.
What?
Right?
That's what they thought, that it's okay. It's 40 years. That's what they thought. They didn't say, oh my gosh, this is terrible. God forgive us.
That's exactly what they did say. And they went to back. They tried to go into the land of Israel. Now, what's that?
Why didn't the teshuva work?
That's a great question. But you see, when Moshe, Yeshua, and Caleb tell them they can go in, they don't go in. Right? When Moshe and God tells them they can't go in, they want to go in.
Such reverse psychology. They should have told them you can't go in right now. So sorry, you're not ready. And they'd be like, no, we're ready.
They really can't go in. Right, Paul? So obviously it wasn't the fear of whatever it was in the land of Israel that gets them. So what was it? So you see, as one of my favorite questions is, what's the worst word in the English language?
I don't know.
No, that's 3 words.
No, I'm saying I don't know. I don't know what the worst word.
I'm joking with you. Blame. You take blame out of your vocabulary and you'll never fail. What's the hardest thing for a human being to do?
Is not to blame.
Close. It's the inverse of that. The hardest thing for a human being to do is
to take responsibility.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's the same idea. It's all part of the same mixture. The hardest thing for a human being to do is to give up.
The hardest thing for a human being is to give up. Yeah.
So rather than give up, we blame.
Oh, because that gives you an out for giving up?
That's right. You don't have to give up.
You're blaming it on something else. I don't want to give up. I will do it, except that, yada, yada, yada.
Exactly. That's what we're talking about here.
Oh, I think I've done this.
Join the club. Right? Yes, that's the kind of Lashon Hara we're talking about. You see, if you are going to go into a program, a university, a gym, anything where you're going to come out great in the military, and you're going, the whole point of the program is to come out greater than you went in, then you've got to be really willing to accept whatever you go through. And to the degree you blame, you're not going to make it, because you're not willing to take on whatever's being thrown at you. You're not growing. You're not listening. You're not hearing it. You're not learning the lesson. That's the type of Lashon Hara we're talking about here. It says, the Gemara says, that some people transgress arias, illicit relations. Most people, or a lot of people, transgress gezela, stealing, but everybody transgresses avek lashon hara, the dust of lashon hara, because everybody's got resentments. We all got resentments towards somebody.
Yes.
And it comes out. You can't help it. If you have a resentment, it's going to come out. What was this day? What did this day become? Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is, I like to call it, the national hit your head against the brick wall day. This is the day. It's a fascinating experience, because we're not doing tshuva on Tisha B'Av. It's not Yom Kippur. It's a day of recognizing how stupid we are. It's not about saying sorry. It's about recognizing your stupidity. It's a very different experience.
But I thought there's another one like that. What's his name? I thought there's another fast like that. What's his name? Gedalia? The fast of Gedalia.
I'm not sure if fast of Gedalia. Maybe.
That was another stupidity of what happened there.
That's true. That's true. But the 9th of Av is the national. That's like, this is what we do, right? And all the evils that come upon us is because we're stupid. And you can see them coming. The 10th of Teves, which is a lead up to the 9th of Av, is the focus on this idea. Is how stupid can you be? And the Talmud says that the 9th of Av, the reason that the temple was destroyed was because of Sinat Chinam. I think we talked about this a little last week, right? Sinat Chinam, it's not Sina. Do people think it's Sina? It's quite fascinating how we just don't hear the words. Like, just, it really emphasizes the point I've been saying here, right? It's not Sina. It's not hatred. I'm not saying hatred is a good thing. Sometimes it is. I particularly have a very deep wish that the Ayatollah die a slow and painful death. But so Sina in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, although it can often be that, right? But it's Sinat Kinam. What is Sinat Kinam? What is free hatred? What's that?
Free hatred.
Yes. What's free hatred?
Is that you don't think it's going to affect you, if I remember your explanation.
Right. That's right. You think you can hate this person and it won't hurt you. You're not going to pay anything. That's the whole story about Kamsa. Like, he's telling the Romans to come and wipe out the Jewish people in the land of Israel. Where did he go? Was he going to be better off because of it? No. Right? That's Sinat Kinam.
I don't understand. Why didn't he just have it out with the guy? Have it out with the guy. Like, what's this? Going outside of your country to get a foreign entity involved? I mean, that's like a level of self-destruction that's not comprehensible.
No, the Romans were already in Israel. What do you mean?
Exactly. It's a foreign entity. You're going to a foreign entity for a local fight?
Yeah.
Duke it out with the person. What's the matter? Duke it out. What?
I understand, but that's a whole nother, right? But that's what we do. But the point is, it's Sinat Chinam, right? The story is coming to explain what Sinat Chinam is. In other words, right? Which has its roots in the spies, because you're not going to be better off.
Right.
It's a fascinating midrash. I'm sure you've heard it. That when they went into the land of Israel, the they saw wherever they went, the kings of that town, of that locality, dropped dead. So they came back and said, Eretz Ochelet Yoshvecha. It's a land that devours its inhabitants.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I mean, I don't know about what they do in New Jersey, but here in Maryland, when someone dies, most of the time they put them in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So what do they do with them in New Jersey?
Same thing.
Same thing. It's Eretz Ochelet Yoshvecha. It's a land that eats its inhabitants. So what are they saying?
I don't know, because that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Not only that, but they said that the Torah says that if you don't do the mitzvahs, if you don't behave in the land of Israel, what's going to happen to you?
You get spit out.
Literally vomited out.
Vomited out.
Sorry to be so crude. Right? You vomit out. Now, what, you can't vomit out something you didn't eat.
Wait, I don't understand that. You're saying the land's going to spit them out, but if they were never in the land, how could they be spit out?
No. They said it's a land that Eretz Ochelet Yoshvecha. It's a land, chapter 13, verse 32, if you want to look it up. It's a land that devours its inhabitants. Right? And they were criticized for this. But the truth is they were right. It does devour its inhabitants because the Torah, in fact, says that if you don't follow the mitzvahs, if you don't behave, the land will vomit you out. Meaning it can only vomit out what it has eaten.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So when they said it's a land that devours its inhabitants, like not only that, but imagine for a minute, right? There's all these people trying to get back to Israel, right? If they're on a flight and it gets diverted to Tehran, and the minute the plane lands, the Ayatollah drops dead.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today it might not be such a bit of a nace, but a year ago that would have been a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So then they get another plane, and it makes another emergency landing in Syria, and Assad drops dead.
Mm-hmm.
They go, well, this sounds interesting. So
they'd be like, what kind of magic airplane is this?
Right, what kind of
Where
magic
can we go next? Which dictator can we bring down next?
Exactly. So someone on the plane has some connections. So they get you the State Department. They say, listen, would you mind flying to North Korea? Right? And you have a list of countries. And every country you stop at, the Russia in that country drops dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know the old joke about they tell the Ayatollah that the Jews are prophesizing the day you're going to die. This is really what day? It's going to be on a Jewish holiday. So he says, which one? Hanukkah? No, this is no. Parsha Shelach? No. Passover? No. This is which one then? He says, any day you die will be a Jewish holiday. Right? Right? How could these people, these are Gedolim, they're in Eretz Israel, they know full well what Rishoyim are living there. The awful acts that they do, child sacrificing and all kinds of horrendous things. You follow? They walk into town and the Russia of the Russia, the biggest Russia in the whole town, drops dead. Who couldn't be happy? Apart from the fact that they must have recognized they distracted everybody. I mean, they stick out like a sore thumb. You imagine the Hazon Ish walking through Ramallah. You don't think everybody know who he is? How do you think he disguised himself? Right? He wore a turban?
Yeah, these are not your regular spies.
Right? So they must have recognized this is a big deal. Right? So how come they say, no, it's a land that devours its inhabitants? So you see, what were they saying? So you see, the problem the Jewish people had from last week was the manna. The manna, when you walked out in the morning, it told you whether you had betachon or not.
Mm-hmm. I
don't want you to tell me I have betachon or not. Yeah. You live in a slum neighborhood, right?
How dare you force me to do self-reflection? How dare you?
Right. I mean, once a year on Yom Kippur, okay, I really should be a better person. But imagine every single morning you wake up and, oh my goodness, here I was. I thought I had B'tachon. I don't have B'tachon. Next door neighbor, he's got B'tachon. Oh my goodness. And then every morning you get reminded, boom, 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 boom.
I can see how that can get a bit old.
They give it to a sentence from the spies that come back and they say, you think this is bad? You go to Eretz Yisrael, right? And you don't behave, your daffodils don't come up. Everyone on the street, the daffodils come up. Yours don't come up. Oh, why do your daffodils come up, Joe? Well, I don't know. Doesn't go down to talk. They said, you see, they understood that why these evil people dropped dead. You know why they dropped dead? Because they walked into town.
The land could not tolerate it anymore.
That's right. You can have orange juice and you can drink milk, but you can't drink them at the same time.
Right.
Your stomach won't handle it. While everyone there is Rishayim, it's fine. While everyone there is Tzaddikim, it's fine. But the Tzaddik walks into the town with the Rasha's going to drop dead. It's a land that lives, eats, is part of the, he said, so therefore everything you do is reflected in the responses you get in the land, in the environment, what happens to you. And people, when you live in Eretz Yisrael, you feel that. That's true.
Yeah, but wait a minute. If this is what they're really saying, then really what they're saying is that if they're tzaddikim and every time they go in, somebody dies who's a Rasha, then taking over the land should be a piece of cake. They're all Rishaim compared to the Jews. So what are they talking about here if they're trying to discourage them? This is actually an encouragement. I don't get this part.
That's exactly right. While we are tzaddikim. But if Sunday morning, I can't be bothered, I'm so tired, I don't want to go to Minyan. I'm like, let me take the day off, play golf. Right? And your tree in your front yard falls down and kills your goat. We don't want to live like that.
I don't understand. You're living like that right now. What's the difference?
No, in Eretz Yisrael, it's even stronger. It's even greater.
So what?
What's that?
So what? You have it now, so it's just going to be a little bit stronger there. So what? At least you're not going to be like, okay, travel now, travel in 2 months, travel again, live in tents. I mean, don't you want to settle down?
They do want to. That's exactly the point. They do want to settle down.
So there's a price to pay. It's a little bit more than what you're doing now. You're going to pay just a little bit bigger.
No, Eretz Yisrael is not the land to settle down. You don't settle down in Eretz Yisrael.
I don't get the argument, because if you're saying they're still eating man, they're still being forced to do self-reflection every day. What's the difference? Now you could do it in your land. Who cares where you're doing it? You're still doing it.
No, it's even deeper. It's everything you do. This was only the manna. It's only eating. This was everything about your life. You give tzedakah $100. You make $1,000 a week. You give $100 tzedakah. The guy next door makes $1,000 a week. He gives $50 tzedakah. Right? The guy next door, his apple trees bloom and produce beautiful apple trees, and your trees get struck by lightning.
Good riddance.
Why? Because you have a deep in the shama, and you should be giving $120. He's an idiot, and he gave $50, and that was for him was a great thing.
You see, from my perspective, considering in the era that we live in, that kind of clear, divine communication is actually fantastic. If Hashem is talking to you so clearly, isn't that better than what we currently have? And we have to figure out, what does this mean? Does it mean this? Does it mean that? I have no idea what it means. Like, we don't have it in such a clear way anymore.
We don't have it in such a clear way. We don't have it in such a clear way because we don't want to listen.
Really? You think that's the reason why we don't have it in a clear way?
That's exactly why we don't have it in a clear way. We
Because
don't want to listen. Yeah, because we don't really want to deal with the things that we really need to deal with. Whatever it is that we need to deal with is things that we don't want to deal with.
It's so true. I'm so tired. Even when you were saying that, I was like falling under the spell of, yes, I'm also tired. It's just, all you have to do is have that, like, that specific voice, and you just fall under its spell.
That's exactly right. They didn't want that, right? It's going to be a greater person. You just don't want it. I have literally met people. It's quite fascinating. I have met people that won't shake my hand.
Why?
They don't want to know. They just don't want to know. They just don't want to get involved in anything that might possibly challenge them. I think that's the whole thing that's going on with the. I don't want to get into politics now, but in Israel, it's the same thing. Here, it's the same thing. It's like, they don't want to deal with the reality. People don't want to think. We are at an epitome, what's the word? When you get in the Revelation, we're at a tremendous crossroads, because the ideologies of the world are coming to the final fatal end, and people just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the truths. They don't want to deal with the realities of their lives, and so there's a lack of dialogue that you haven't seen in America ever, really. The closed-mindedness that's going on is quite fascinating. And the same thing in Israel. You just can't talk to people. I mean, I had a guy here just not that long ago. I said, let's talk about it. You want to talk? I don't want to know. And we were quite close for quite some time. They just don't want to talk about it.
Because as soon as they do, then they have to do something about it.
They don't want to do anything, right? That's
what I said earlier, is that it's they don't have the will, and so that's why they look away.
They look away, right. So that's that gives us a taste of what was going on here. The Jewish people weren't ready to leave Mitzrayim. That was the essential problem, and they were supposed to be there 400 years. They left early. They weren't cooked, and the desert was supposed to fill in that gap. But that's very, very hard when you are not ready to live up to the responsibility you're faced with. You see this, situations where 1948 people were kids. In England, when people were kids and they were faced with the war, the Holocaust, when 7-year-old, 6-year-old, any age, there was all ages, when found themselves in Auschwitz. It was you had to grow up, and a lot of them didn't. And we met these people who just never were able to deal with the shock of what human beings can be. It was a trauma.
It's a hard pill to swallow. It's hard.
Yeah, we understand it. So that's when you needed 40 years. Because
are we finally cooked? Are we cooked yet? Are we ready yet?
I hope so. My wife sent me this great article by Rabbi, I forgot his name now. I'm sorry.
Is that the one you texted me about?
Yeah, phenomenal article. Let me see if I can find it. About in this week's Parsha, you've got 150,000 Jews.
Yeah, Rabbi Eyal Vered, is that the one? Yeah, Rabbi Eyal Vered.
Right. Very good. Right. You got 150,000 Jews panicked that they can't go back to the land of Israel at a time of war.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. That's a real ticker of what this parsha is all about.
Yeah, it really is. When you think about it, and even in a deeper level, is that the saying, "No, we're going towards the fire, not away."
Right. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, and I think we all remember. We've met lots of people, and you can't blame them. It was a very tough thing to live in Israel, but lots of people left Israel. They said, why do I need this service? And why do I need all these wars? Why do I need all, this struggle and everything?" And they left Israel because it was just too tough. This is the first time that the Jewish people en masse are returning to the lands of Israel.
I hate to say this, but I did some self-reflection. I don't know if I could have handled it.
Handle what?
What's going on there? Like the shock and like the situation with the kids, how so much of them are like dealing with the trauma, and I don't know how I would have dealt with it. I honestly don't know how I would have dealt with it.
That's true. I mean, it's all speculations. They say that there's a difference between a chicken. There's a difference between a chicken and a pig when it comes to breakfast. I'm not talking about our breakfast. We're talking about, right? So people who eat bacon and eggs, right? The chicken made a contribution, but the pig made a real commitment.
That's good.
So you can make a contribution, but is it a real commitment? You're right. Until you're in the spot, it's hard to extrapolate. But nevertheless,
It scares me though. To a certain degree, it scares me because I suspect that I don't think I have the level of bitachon to make it.
Yeah, I think you're making a mistake.
What's that?
I was talking to a rabbi a little while ago. His son is in the army. He was in the Gaza Strip. So he was, he's obviously worried about his son. So I said, "Don't worry about your son. Worry about you." So I said, "Why?" He says, "Because your battle is harder than his battle."
How so? Because he's worried about his son, and he can't do anything about it.
No, day to day, if you're trying to be from in America, your battles are far more severe, far more challenging. I mean, it's not me who says this; it's the Gemara that says this. That one of the great rabbis was meeting soldiers coming up from the war. He says, "You're just leaving a small battle, going to the big battle." Fighting terrorists in the Gaza Strip. It's fairly clear who you're looking for and what you have to be careful of. It's true, it's totally dangerous, right? Going to the grocery store in America is you look at the wrong thing, you eat the wrong thing, you get upset by the wrong thing, you talk to the wrong person, you say the wrong thing. It's a total battle 24/7.
Wow, that's so interesting. Two of my kids came with me to Costco and they hadn't been with me for a while. And they got so upset. They came home and they're like, "We're never going again."
What do they get upset about?
People dressed in a certain way.
Right. Now, the Brisker Rav used to say, Rav Hutner used to say that the average person today, he was talking about in the 1950s, he says the average person today sees more pizzas going to the grocery store in one visit than the average person saw his entire life in the shtetl in Poland.
Right. Our challenges are very hard, yeah.
Right. And then we're not talking about the neighbors that annoy you. And all the other frustrations of life that you can lose your olam haba in an instant. This is the real battle.
Given that it's so hard, I imagine that any little success we have is probably huge then, since it's so in our face all the time.
That's right. That's right. We're champions.
Wow. Is that part of the Yetzer Hara's clever mind manipulation, in that, I mean, really, how many rabbis do you hear saying, you generation, you guys are amazing. You're fighting such horrible battles every single day. I mean, the only place I see this sometimes is like on the Vayimayin on Torah Anytime. But like, you really don't hear this. I mean, growing up, it was like, oh, if you do this, you go to Gehenna. If you do that, you go to Gehenna. It was like negative. It wasn't any of this, like what you're saying. Wow, like the challenges we have are huge.
They are huge, absolutely.
And that we're any little success that we have is even huger.
That's right. If you are a woman, you're covering your hair, the 21st century, or you're a man, you're covering your head in the 21st century, and you're keeping kosher properly, and you're keeping Shabbos properly, and you ask shilas, like, you're going one-way ticket to Olam Haba.
Wow. I want that on paper.
I'll totally sign it. I can't seal it. I don't have to seal, but I totally sign it.
I like that. That should be like on every Torah, anything, like everywhere. That should be it.
Okay. I'm with you. Thanks, guys.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Wait, is there a beginning and end that's similar?
Well, the beginning, the end is easy in this week's Parsha. It's like,
I didn't notice what said in the end.
Yeah. It starts with the spies and ends with tzitzis. I mean, this is a piece of cake. Getting the middle bit, there are some challenges in that. I don't have a great insight in everything, because there are some tangents, it seems, but somehow it all fits together. But nevertheless, the beginning and the end is, right, tzitzis, right, is the spies of the eyes and the ears, right?
Oh, this is fantastic. Wow. I think I'm going to have to re-listen to this one, because I'm not sure I understood everything. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Take care. Good night.
Good night. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.